Hey everyone, is pride a sin? Pride is a concept mentioned all through the Bible. We know most even normal people, not Christians, know the proverb, pride comes before the fall. And so pride is often represented as a sin in the Bible. In that sense, it is. In the Bible, it is, because in that the way it's used throughout the biblical text, both in Hebrew and Greek, is the sense of being competitive. I'm better than, superior than, which breeds a sense of independence. I'm better than God, I don't need his help. Or I'm better than other people who need God, therefore I'm not like them. It breeds a sense of confidence and independence, not confidence and assertiveness that's healthy, but a confidence that leads toward full independence because I think I'm better than. C.S. Lewis said this: pride is essentially competitive. And that's largely true. I wish he'd said the second part, I'll say in a second, but he didn't. But essentially, when I'm a prideful person, it means deep down I think I'm better than others. And that includes better than God. And that's why when we're very prideful toward God, as C.S. Lewis says, a prideful person cannot know God. That's absolutely true. In that sense, absolutely true. Because when you come in front of God, if there's any hint whatsoever that you are better than him, we got to be gut level honest about this. That we're better than him, or we're better than his ways, better than his thinking. If there's an ounce of that in you think you know better, you don't know who he really is. To be in the presence of God is to be fully aware that I'm a pathetic, puny, mere mortal human he loves for some bizarre reason just because he's so loving, but it has nothing to do with my capacities. Now, the most extreme form of pride, of course, is narcissism. In narcissism, they have a real profound, megalomaniac kind of hyper-sensitive view that they are superior than other people. You don't have to be a narcissist to be struggle with pride. I know people say everybody struggles with pride to some degree. Maybe. I don't think that's true, though. Maybe if they do, if everyone you meant like at 0.5%, there's some people who just simply aren't prideful. They're not competitive. They don't have any interest in beating people all the time. And so those people usually you've met people like that and you like them a lot, because when you're in their presence, you don't feel like it's a competition. You don't feel that the person is captious. They're not trying to find fault with you if you say the wrong word or the wrong joke, the wrong time, whatever. They're They don't hold things against you. Remember that time you failed? Remember that time you tripped? Remember that time? Now, it's different when you're with your friends, you're kind of goofing off, but in general, you'll find certain people that they want to find fault. They're captious. We don't like people like that. You might be that kind of person. Well, typically that's the case. There's a degree of pride. Maybe because you're wounded. Okay, but let's assume for a second, just because you're prideful, that that's the main reason. So pride in that sense is very sinful and bad, but it's destructive. It's a very destructive pattern in interpersonal relationships, and it's certainly destructive when it comes to God, because you have got to understand that when you're in the presence of God, you ain't God. And so there's another word that early Christians adopted, that Paul did in the earliest Christians, that was a not popular virtue in the time period. Some Roman philosophers seem to have used it some, but in general, it was not. And that was the word we come through the Latin, through the English, we say it this way: humble. And so when the person's humble, comes right again from the Latin and the Greek, it means of the earth, debased. So we know the verb form to be humiliated means to be brought down low in social status. So humble person is someone who has been humiliated. And that was the characteristics used of slaves. That was the adjective they used of slaves in the first century. And very bizarrely, these Christians came around and said, you need to be humble. You need to be humble. Of course, Paul's famous, well-known hymn, whether he composed it or not, in Philippians 2, that is, we're to be humble. We're not to be self-conceited. We consider other people more important. That is, socially speaking, we treat them as if they're the master and we're the slave. And he says, your perfect example is that the Lord Jesus, who of course didn't hold on or grasp onto his divinity, but emptied himself, taking on the form of a slave. And so Paul gives a phenomenal example in that poem, probably an early church tune, of what it means to be humble. That kind of pride is sinful, and that's bad. There's a different kind of pride that's not. And this is where Christians, in my experience, get it off base and they get it wrong. And it's this. There's a kind of pride that says, I feel satisfied about that thing, that person, that accomplishment. I feel personal satisfaction. That kind of pride is absolutely not sinful. That is a normal, appropriate response to doing the right thing. When I closed my mouth instead of cussed, or I could have chewed that person out and I didn't, I go, good for me. Whew, I could have let that person have it. No, don't be prideful. You'll go to hell. That's not... We in American English, we use it all the time. We say, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. Well, just from usage, the of you in the genitive case, that preposition of you is how we know the direct object is going to be you. Another way that's more cumbersome of saying it is, I have pride about you. I feel accomplishment. I feel a sense of satisfaction because of your accomplishment of what you've just done. So we tell our children that, I'm proud of you. And you should tell your children you're proud of them. When you say, I'm proud of you for doing that well, what you did not just say is, I'm an arrogant, competitive punk who can't stand God. I'm a dirty, rotten sinner, and we go to hell now that I feel pride for my children. That doesn't make any sense. That's not how we use the word. All we mean is we feel sense of self-satisfaction because of something. It's contingent typically. I'm proud of you, but I'll say I'm proud of your character. I'm proud of your accomplishment. I'm proud of you working hard. Something like that. I'll tell them exactly what I meant by I'm proud of blank. When I say I love you, it's not contingent. It's not I love you because of a blank. The answer, I mean, if you had to say because, it'd be causal. It'd be grounding. It'd be like, I love you just because I love you. You exist. That's why your existence. You're the object of my love because you exist. But when I'm proud of them, it's different. So parents, be proud of your kids. Be proud of yourselves. It's okay to be proud of yourself when you do the right thing. When you do the right thing, I think God's proud of you. And I don't think God's going to hell. Just God's not being arrogant when he's proud of you. And so we can be glad when we do the right thing. We can say, God's proud of you. You did a good job. And you ought to feel a sense of self-satisfaction and not feel condemned or judged just because I feel a sense of self-satisfaction when I do the right thing. And that's a good thing. So that's another thing. I say that I mentioned all this episode because I encounter this so much in life, particularly when it comes to counseling. People have a low self-esteem, it's almost impossible for them to say kind things about themselves. They had a difficult time saying, I love myself, and they have very difficult time saying anything good about their own accomplishments. And I've met numerous people who have great accomplishments. I'm not talking about they win the Nobel Peace Prize, and that's cool, and that's great. I'm talking about something that's even more important than the Nobel Peace Prize. That is, they didn't kill themselves after being raped multiple times. They didn't kill themselves after they grew up in an emotionally and physically and sexually abusive home. And they're still here and they kept kicking. They ought to be extremely proud of themselves. Very, very, very pleased that they did the right thing. Now, David, does that mean if I do the right thing or if I'm proud of myself, it means that God didn't help me? No, I don't think that either. Of course not. That's like saying my own children. I'm proud of my son and daughter working hard in school. But they're working hard at school. And I'm proud they're making that choice. But it doesn't mean they do that in a vacuum. Of course not. We pay for all their food and their drink and their clothes and take them to school and provide the vehicles and the encouragement. We help them with homework. We help them with on and on it goes. So we surround them with the praise and love and safety for which they still have a free will to choose as they will. I'm proud they're using their free will to work hard and be as resilient as possible. It's the same way about us. We don't do anything independent of God. That's impossible. It's impossible to do that. We're not even breathing apart from God willing it. That is to say, God wills and sustains the universe. And so every breath we have is from him, absolutely. So the whole surrounding of the cosmos is there because God established it. Nevertheless, we still use our free will to make the right choice. With his encouragement, with his grace, yes. But we still have a free will to say, I'm going to choose to do it. And when we do that, it's okay to be proud of yourself. If you're struggling with pride because you think you're better than other people, you're competitive, I strongly encourage you to go to a therapist, a counselor, read a book of that, and find out why it is you are so scared of other people being better than you. And I bet at core it's because you won't feel lovable or loved, or you'll feel vulnerable and you'll feel like you're in danger. But I guarantee you those things are false. But right now, if you are prideful, you heard those say, no, that's not at all. That's not it. Okay. It's worth exploring. And maybe you just learn behavior. Maybe you had brothers or a dad or mom who was always competitive, made you prideful. Okay, but you can unlearn that. You can disabuse yourself of that if you want to. If you're a Christian, you really, really need to work on pride. And it's not enough. And I've heard this of many people who struggle with pride. Many people. They'll say this, I know I struggle with pride. I know I struggle with pride. Oh, okay. Struggle. Do you mean often? Or do you mean sometimes I'm tempted to be that? If you mean often, it means just not enough. You've got to destroy that part of you. That part of you's got to die. It's destroying your relationship. It's deleterious. It's poisonous to your relationships, interhuman relationships, and with God. So I strongly encourage you to surrender that and give it over to him And a therapist, a counselor will be very good for you to try to determine why it is I struggle with that, and find someone, and you can, a Christian counselor who is safe and loving and kind, and help you get to the bottom of that so you can get rid of it, right? Because there's freedom on the other side, and that's the goal, freedom on the other side. And then when you do that and you go to the therapist, you did the hard work, praise God, be proud of yourself that you did the right thing. Tell me your thoughts below. Share this video with your friends. I love you much. God bless you. And I hope to see you next time.